Hi, Paul. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. Warm in spirit, even if it's a bit chilly in London today. As Paul said, I'm Cadi. I run our EMEA-based business. I'm based out of London, and we look after Europe, Middle East, and Africa from here. And I'm really pleased to be with you today, even if sadly not actually poolside in Cannes. I mean, this looks a little bit like it could be Cannes, could be Miami, could be anywhere where there's a nice pool and the sun is shining. But I am joined by some great panelists today. Hopefully I have everyone on the call. I know we've had some, I think, guys, then we may need to let in, so she'll be joining us very shortly. If I can ask Bruno, you can start just by introducing yourself.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Cadi. Well, basically, I run a company called the Programmatic company, so everything is look obvious into the name, I guess. Basically, we power the brands and their partners in operating paid media digital strategies on the main DSPs and ad platform in the market. As you can imagine, we have a pretty large acceptation of the word programmatic for sure. And we have developed to do so a platform and a language that help us to manage all the operation for advertiser on main DSPs and ad platform on the market. A language that help us to have consistent operation across all of those platforms and help advertisers to navigate into that complexity. That's it.
Welcome, Silvia.
Thank you.
Hello. So my name is Silvia Sparry. I'm the VP of Global Operations and Platforms for Xaxis. Xaxis is an outcome-driven media company. So we're part of the Group M group. And we work to ensure that we're driving business results as part of our programmatic activity on behalf of our advertisers. And so on specific to my role, I look after programmatic excellence across all of our operating platforms. And as part of it, I also oversee things like business systems, tech infrastructure, automation, optimization, obviously, and supply path optimization.
Amazing, welcome. Thank you for joining. And Gurman?
Yeah, hi Cadi, thanks for having me. So I'm Gurman Hundal, co-founder and CEO of MIQ. MIQ's been going for about 10 years and we help clients effectively run their programmatic media activity. We're always working with around 500 clients at any one time across the world, really. We have offices in about 8 countries. But yeah, that's me.
Brilliant. And do we have guys there already?
Hopefully you can see me.
Brilliant. I can hear you, which is the main thing.
Okay.
Welcome.
So I'm here. So hi guys, I'm Geisla de Souza. I'm the VP of Paid Media for Jellyfish. I look after the EMEA and APAC display teams and our paid media operations team, which is a global function. So Jellyfish, we were an agency, but we position ourselves more as a digital partner because we're a Google marketing partner, certified partner, and we do things such as we do the fully managed side of things for paid media, but we also implement the GMP tech stack. So very much in terms of in-housing or fully managed, or even a hybrid of where some are transitioning services in-house, but still need a little bit of help. So that's me, and I've been in this industry for about 20 years now, worryingly.
Goes fast, doesn't it? Actually, Geisla, maybe just based on that intro, maybe you can start. And that my first question is really around with programmatic advertising. You know, there's so much focus now on increased control and transparency. How is that impacting your business model? You touched on some of the changes. You know, you've moved from that agency model.
Yeah, so since I've been in Jellyfish for the past sort of 3 years, and also probably in my previous role as well at Audience Science, there's definitely been a drive towards transparency. So, and I think that was one of the reasons, actually, you know, talking candidly on here, which is why I joined Jellyfish actually from Audience Science. Audience Science was all about transparency, and they were the DMP and DSP for Procter & Gamble. So so they pretty much drove a lot of our technology, and they wanted to understand all the fees, and they drove a lot around the actual media acquisition. And that's what's great about Jellyfish in terms of, yes, we do have a fully managed product, but we're very transparent about everything that a client has to pay for. So they understand all of the fees, they understand all of the costs to actually run everything. So, and being certified on the Google Marketing stack, it's one of their things in terms of they like the people that they're working with to be transparent about everything that that you're providing.
Yeah, I think that's it's helpful to have heard a bit about that transition. I think we're increasingly talking to brands who are really keen to focus on outcomes though as well, and seeing the results that matter for their business. And Gurman, is this something you want to comment on in terms of that, you know, how the model is changing?
Yeah, I think there's always a point around, is it about profit, only been about value, and the value is getting the outcome that the marketers want. I think and I don't think that's changed for many years, actually. I think that's been very consistent for a long time. Even more so now, the outcomes, I think, are going beyond just media metrics a lot of the time for a lot of clients. And I think if you link it back to your earlier point around transparency, I think there's more, the question more is, what's the money flow? If you get me the outcome, I don't mind how much money you might have made. I just want to understand the money flow, so I know where the value is coming from to get me that outcome. I think that's really the key thing clients are after or trying to understand. I want to be educated.
I think that's really interesting. I think you make a really valid point. You know, it's something we end up talking to a lot of people about, that, you know, click-through rate or video completion rate are not necessarily the things that will drive, you know, most value for their business. Silvia, you were nodding a lot through that. You increase, like, how customers asking you about sort of non-media metrics?
Yes, 100%. Because very often the media metrics, you know, don't correlate to business success. I mean, a click-through rate is more of an indicator of, you know, how alluring their creative might be, but it doesn't really help the advertiser to reach their business goals. So therefore, it's really important that we understand how they measure business success and how we can find different proxies, different things that we can optimize our campaigns to, essentially, that help us bring that optimization to their business results to kind of a more real-time status. Yeah, so it's all about getting inputs not just from the DSPs, but also from the advertisers' data signals themselves, being able to integrate other things like stock market values or weather signals, and then to combine all of these metrics into one outcome composite metric that expresses that business result as closely as possible.
I feel like that's something that's really changed a lot, you know, a lot over the last few years. Bruno, is this something that your customers are asking about?
Yeah, I can only definitively, can you hear me? Yeah, that's fine. Can only echo what Silvia just said. The challenge here is to find the good metrics that will help advertisers to know if their business is going good or not. Media is only kind of way or mean in order to achieve those goals. So we figure out that one of the main challenge that we had in well-operating media buying was to really understand what advertisers tend to do. And we had to develop a specific brief console in order that we can match the media goals and the business goals. If you do not that, in fact, you are not going to really serve what the advertiser wants. And that's where we try to change the way media is operated today, in a way. And to get more onto the transparency issue, yeah, we operate in a way that clients can have access to exactly the same data as you can see into the ad platforms. We just structure them in a different way, just in order that they understand much more what are the parameters that really impact the performance that's it. And to move forward on this one, we also offer them the opportunity to have their own advertiser, their own, sorry, ad accounts or DSP seats. We just enter those numbers into our codes, and our platform is going to work perfectly well with their own ad accounts or DSP seats. What is definitively a change into the market.
And I think all of this is sort of happening as programmatic is kind of getting to, you know, the next level. We're kind of coming into kind of programmatic phase 2.0. I think when we're hearing for these different demands and clients and advertisers just getting so much more advanced, both in you know their expectations as well as, you know, in how they're hoping to partner. I think I'm really keen to hear a little bit from each of you on how your business is adapting, how you're evolving, and how you use that programmatic technology to innovate for your customers. Who wants to go first? Gurman, do you want to share?
Yeah, I'll tell you. Yeah, I mean, look, this is what really excites me actually, is that I'm seeing as consumers consume most media through devices connected to the internet, you're now able to buy media through programmatic means in a different way than you were, say, a few years ago. And I think the most prominent areas are TV, out of home, and audio. And these are traditional offline mediums that, as I said, as users are consuming that content through devices connected to the internet, whether it's live or streamed or on demand, whatever, like we can buy those ads now and have the impact of, say, high impact creativity through TV advertising with all the targeting and measurement and insight capabilities of programmatic. And I just think that is the future now. And interestingly, I've seen the pandemic actually accelerate advertisers' seriousness of that trend, because I think they're now saying that, oh, well, this was happening and maybe we'll do our normal TV stuff, but we'll try this sort of programmatically enabled TV buying. But we've seen like most of our demand over the last 3-4 months has been in these areas actually.
That's really interesting. I think who could I call on next? Who'd like to share a bit more about that innovation kind of drive? Silvia, please.
I'll take that one. So I do think that you know, we're heading to a future where everything will be programmatic, because everything will be transacted in an automated fashion due to that connectivity and due to the fact that the platforms surrounding it are just becoming increasingly stronger. And so, you know, to come back to your question on how to innovate within this, it's about having a really good grasp of the kind of tech fundamentals that you have available to build with, and then to have a really good understanding on how to utilize artificial intelligence in order to optimize across these platforms and how to optimize within these platforms, and to create that interconnectivity between these systems, so that you're becoming really scaled at bringing data in, that you're becoming really good at then modeling to that data, matching it to advertiser outcomes, and to then automatically push that back out to the system. So those things are important. And I think one area that we've overlooked for a very long period of time within programmatic is the importance of creative and creative messaging. So I think that that's something that we're placing a lot of focus on internally as part of Xaxis Creative Studios. And I think others will probably do the same, because, you know, in a world where, you know, due to the cookies becoming less of an important targeting criteria in the near future, you know, things like creative and media, I think will gain in importance. So those are the things that we really do need to be able to create competitive advantage on for our clients.
Yeah, and I think there's some really fascinating in terms of, yes, as everything becomes digital, there's clearly innovation in terms of the formats and the channels. Huge advances in data. Silvia, definitely. I mean, it's something, you know, the rise of sort of ability and to process the sort of huge volumes that you see in log file data is something that's, you know, that's really changed over the last few years. I think, Bruno, is there something that yeah, go for it in terms of, I know you have a lot of a data science, data analytics team. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. We have, once again, on the echo what Silvia just said. It's the way it should be. It has to be. Where I could say add something is a big difference is that we try to use the technology in order to help humans to take decisions. We have tried to make automation at its maximum into the company, especially on low value tasks. For example, we are working on an auto setup functionality of global operations. So you decide all the platforms you want to deliver on, and you enter your strategy, in fact, and that strategy is now combined into some elements that can go through a platform, because we really think that, okay, traffic management is good work, but is it still so important? I don't think so, and no offense to traffic manager today, but I think that they could add other values in the chain more than just trafficking things. And when you have a look at the time it could take 2 UIs to set up tons of targeting, that's definitively nonsense, according to me. So that's the first thing. And the second one is definitively about the algorithm, and not only the algorithm to optimize and the performances of the campaigns, but also to help people to do day-to-day jobs, such as combining dimension in order to be able to deliver and to design a very good operation for advertiser. We know by experience that at some points, when you have multi-targeting and a lot of targeting, your campaign is going to work much better than the one that is only targeting few interests or behaviors. Just because when launching a new targeting, you have the opportunity to see if it works or not. We do not have answer at the starting point. We just deliver, see what happened, and we optimize onto that. So having the capability to develop algorithms that help people to design those operations in a more complex way in order to push those operations live directly on platform add a massive value to what we do, and that's what we do.
So I think adding to that list then, so sort of automation of low value activities, and then there's sort of complex experiments that allow you to really find special sort of pockets of performance. Geisla, what else can we add to this list of how you're innovating and competing? It's great.
So they're both quite, so probably to echo what Silvia and Bruno have said there. So obviously we have our trade lab part of the business, which is like our innovation hub. So they're always looking at how to optimize and automate and innovate around programmatic, especially. So that's really great. So especially just what Bruno was saying there around how can we automate more of the low value tasks, but also how we see it is our practitioners are our specialists, and actually our clients want to hear from them. They want to understand about how their campaigns are working and be more consultative. So if we can automate more things such as campaign setup based on, you know, we have campaign templates based on previous performance, all these areas of automation that then speeds up campaign setup and give us the insights that we need. That's all really valuable to the client because they will actually want more interaction with the practitioners themselves. And then, yeah, we're doing a lot around, we're definitely seeing and trying to prep for once Chrome changes come in, and obviously that's going to give us some challenges, but definitely similar, you know, what creative optimization do we need to be thinking about? And we've got a really amazing creative team actually who are coming up with some really great dynamic creative solutions, and obviously we're seeing more above the line becoming more programmatic. And I definitely, you know, it's a really exciting time to be in our industry actually, when you see things like audio coming into programmatic. Obviously out of home's a challenge right now with COVID, but hopefully that will pick up again, more TV. So it's a really exciting time to see all of this coming actually into the platform. And we want our guys, our capabilities to actually be able to talk and converse with our clients about it. So as where we can automate as much as possible, free up their time, then that's what we're trying to drive towards.
Yeah, and it's fascinating. You know, it's quite I definitely, you know, remember 5 years ago when every conference you would go to there would be a debate on data versus creative, right? And now I feel like, you know, everyone sort of recognized that, you know, neither one can win. And I think so it's really interesting to hear, you know, I think that innovation and progress being made through the different media that are available, through data and how we're using it, through the creative, through automation, through different experiments, and through that sort of combination of all of those. And Gurman, you mentioned it in your last in the last point, so I want to dig in a little bit more, but with maybe Silvia, you can start. But I'm really keen to hear a bit more about the pandemic and what trends have really been accelerated by this. Perhaps you can share what some of the things that you've seen there.
Yeah, do you want Silvia to start, or do you want me to crack on?
Oh, wait, Silvia?
Yeah, I can start. Yeah. So
mix it up.
So I think I know that we mentioned outcomes before, but you know, obviously in a time like this, results count more than ever. You know, nobody in this time wants any of their marketing spend to be wasted. So, you know, optimization to the things that matter is definitely more important than ever. But we do also see some advertisers who essentially had to delay their kind of purchase interaction with the customer. So for example, if you're a car brand, you're probably not going to actually sell many cars right now. So then you see a switch in focus to a kind of more emotional kind of brand messaging, where we need to ensure that we're using programmatic as a tool to help, you know, connect the customer emotionally to the brand and ensure that, you know, that they are still feeling connected to the brand in this difficult time. So there's kind of, yes, there has been a performance focus, but at the same time, we've also seen a resurgence of a lot of kind of more brand activity within this and the formats that lend themselves to driving these.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, there's been like sort of, I bucket clients into four buckets actually. You've got clients that just ain't going to spend right now because either they're financially impacted or their business is wildly impacted. You've got clients who are just massive, and as Silvia said, would potentially pivot their campaigns to more brand-led or cause-led marketing. And they're some of the biggest brands in the world we're seeing doing that. Then you've got companies who are like completely pivoting how they engage with customers to a new, more online dialogue, whether that could be like Subway to click and collect, or to companies where we all like Home Depot in the US or someone saying like, you know, click and collect tile engagements and pushing that part of their business and that side. And then you've got companies who are like, oh, like actually the pandemic's almost worked for us. We need to double down now and go and steal market share. And they're kind of going crazy. But the consistency of anyone who's spending, I'm seeing, is that they all want to do programmatic TV. That's what I'm seeing as the biggest trend that's come out from this pandemic, is that they have all, and I class YouTube in that category as well. That is what I think we were all, as a company, always thinking this is a trend that's gonna, that we want to latch onto, and our programmatic capabilities are gonna offer great solutions for clients in that space. But I'd say, you know, to put numbers to it, the amount of our campaigns that have had a TV component has nearly quadrupled since March, basically.
Wow, that's some uplift on it. Bruno, I know this is an area where you've been investing some time.
Yeah, for me, and I am trying to moving forward the conversation with Gurman. In fact, the main quality of programmatic that we have seen during that pandemic is flexibility. Definitively, it's the climax of flexibility. I mean, it has been a nightmare. I don't know for the other countries, because I'm not on the other countries right now, but for French advertisers, it has been a nightmare to cancel their TV buying. They had to switch to other content to deliver just because the one that they have were not adapted to the situation. So, but it has been a nightmare. Programmatic offered the flexibility in order to say on off. except on programmatic guaranteed for sure, but you can say on off, and that's definitively a change for advertisers. They are looking for that comfort because they can adapt their business and their results to what they want to invest in media. And yeah, echoing once again Gurman, there has been some studies from the Internet Advertising Bureau in the US mentioning that a lot of advertisers were moving from TV to CTV, just because I think flexibility is a part of that choice. They understand that they are not going to be stick in the middle with upfront buying that they have, and definitively it makes a very, very big change.
Guys, have you also seen sort of brands' perspective change by the pandemic?
Yes, so we had I think a few impacts really. So definitely saw more of a branding type activity. So obviously trying to still connect with the customers, even though, because some of our clients, if we think about, everyone went into lockdown, so obviously that impacts your supply chain. So obviously I think some advertisers would have carried on, but they just couldn't actually then fulfill an order if that was the case. So then it was a case of diversifying and changing towards more brand activity. But then there were some who absolutely took advantage of the situation, in terms of, if you think about the publishers, CPMs actually dipped massively for a lot of publishers because of the COVID, not wanting to appear next to COVID. So that drove the CPMs down. So there were some of our advertisers actually took advantage of that and actually threw out more spend. So there's definitely a pivot in different ways depending on the type of client you are. And yeah, and now it's all, at the moment, we're just seeing quite a steady kind of base of activity again, but now it's really preparing for when we come out of this. So a lot of talk about streaming and connected TVs. There's definitely been a change in thinking about, well, actually we can buy so much more programmatically and it is flexible. So what can we do and how can we prep for all of that? So yeah, some really interesting behavior.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's, we've been talking to a lot of FMCG brands or CPG brands for people from the States who've really seen, you know, e-commerce accelerate hugely. And I think that also, you know, again, drives further investment in digital channels. I'm keen that we loop back a little bit on something we talked about in terms of the changing. I think most of you mentioned sort of data. I really wanted to just investigate a little bit more the sort of roles of the trader and how that sort of job function is evolving. And I guess if I had to put it, if I asked maybe what the trader tools and techniques you've kind of put in place for success, and how that is evolving as the sort of rate of automation increases. Bruno, would you start us off? I mean, you talked about, you know, automation. What are the tools and techniques that your traders are now doing?
Yeah, sure. Well, the first thing is not dedicated to trader, but what you have to put in place in order that trader can do the job. The first one is definitively a data workflow. The way that you get the data from the different platforms, you structure it, you help them in order that they have the right option in order to take decision is definitively key. And you have to develop query tool to access data and validate intuition of traders. As fortunately, or not fortunately, I don't know, not everything is always managed by algorithm, or not yet, I don't know. But yeah, human always still take a great part into the success of a campaign, and we encourage that. But if they do not have access to the data in order to take decision, it's not going to work at all, as simple as it is. So yeah, the main technique is definitively access to the data and help data scientists have access to data, and that's not their job. A lot of companies are, in a way, not clear on to what data science are doing and data engineers are doing, and they ask sometimes data scientists to be data architect, and that's not working. You really have to be clear on what you want to have in store and what you can give in terms of content to specific people in order that they can take decision. And definitively, data flow is one of the most important, just because if you have the right structure where people can see the data from different angles, such as breakdown or that kind of stuff. Fortunately, on some platforms, we have the raw data, so it's much more easy to manage. Will not mention Beeswax here, see what I mean? But definitely, yeah, they spend their life in trying to understand the data and adapt the strategies of the campaigns based on that, as simple as it is.
Geisla, how about you? I mean, I know you still have a trading team at Jellyfish.
Yep. So I think we see it slightly different. We kind of, there's two strengths of the team, if you like. So we have very much if you think about the tech stack and implementation of the tech stack, we have people who are really strong in being able to work with a client and actually look at the GMP tech stack and be able to say, okay, analytics, search, campaign manager, DV360, this is how they will all work together, and then support a client through that. And then we do still have practitioners who manage fully managed campaigns. So, but it's quite, for us, it's slightly different in terms of, I suppose we think of paid media, we are paid media, we are an overall team. So we work very much with the data and planning team around what will work well for that client and what's the strategy. It then comes into essentially what's our traders, so across our channels, so search, social and display. And if we have a client that run all three of those channels, then it's those team members actually work together really closely with the data and planning team to come up with what's right for that campaign or that client's marketing spend. So we put a lot of emphasis actually on our practitioners being able to work together and understand how all of those channels work together in the marketing funnel, because I wonder how many of us actually joined this world and never really got taught what is the marketing funnel and the different pieces that play within that. I mean, many of us are probably guilty of throwing a programmatic platform in front of an intern going, off you go, and they didn't actually know what they were doing. So it's really nice to actually have that full team working together to say, okay, here's the data, here's the theory, and here are the practitioners who are actually going to pull it all together. And then, yeah, we really encourage our guys to understand how to interpret the data, but we do have obviously data scientists as part of that team who, you know, they are the piece that brings it all together, and they are very much part of any review with a client. They're in the data and they're helping us with the strategy and explaining to a client what's worked well, what's not worked well, what should we do for the future.
Yeah, so that combination of human collaboration, human intervention, as well as the data. Gurman, I'm really keen to hear from you on this one as well, in terms of that you know, that rise of automation, but you know what the humans are still doing.
Yeah. I think the trader's role for a marketer is massively understated, because the ultimate person who makes the decisions on really how to spend the money is the trader, really. And that's the primary role of a trader, is to make decisions every day, really, about how to spend and optimize a client's campaign spend. And I think that what you need to do to power traders is give them insight and information and tools in a very automated way. And really, when we talk about AI, machine learning, data science in programmatic, it's not more about just optimizing a bid or an algorithm optimizing. It's more around how are you automating setup time, how are you automating reporting back to clients, how are you basically freeing up as much time as possible so the trader can have access to data and make an informed decision about how to buy that media, and ultimately they make that decision, not the machines don't make. The machines might automate a part of the process, but really the trader is I don't know, maybe it's an extremist view, but I think the trader does make quite a significant decision of how a client's budget.
No, I love it. I started out trading, so I'm 100% with you. Like, these people are, they're the people moving the machine, right?
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah.
Silvia, is that
Yeah, I agree broadly with what everybody said. It's really important to provide traders with a really solid workbench, essentially. So, I think, it's important to, just make a central effort. And we're doing that at Group M level, actually, not even at Xaxis level, to bring all of the data into the same place and to ensure that the logs and all of the aggregates, that all of this data is accessible. And then also to consolidate our best practice approaches, because we haven't really spoken that much about, best practice, which is incredibly important because, to operate on all of these different platforms to expert level within a 3 months onboarding period is a really big ask for anybody who comes new to our industry. So, we've worked very closely with our Group M services colleagues in order to consolidate all of our programmatic best practice. We're starting to measure against that as well so that we can see, where traders are adhering to these basic standards and where they're falling behind. But then also, to give them these tools that they can build on themselves, so they themselves can build their own, automation on top of the technical building blocks that we are making available to them, and to get them to own those automation approaches. So that's very much the theory. It's a bit, open source. We provide the platform and they can do the building on top of it.
I love that. I really want to probe into that and ask, if they're sharing them between each other, or are they just if someone builds something, are they keeping it to themselves? Like, look at my client's performance. Maybe I'll ask those questions offline, because I think, because I'm really conscious of where we are on time, because I have only got you here for an hour today, and I can see we're already getting questions coming in through the Q&A tool, and I want to make sure we have time to answer the questions from the audience. But let me ask each of you maybe one final question around what the future holds for your business. Like, how and where are we going? Bruno, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. It looks pretty obvious for me, just because it is what I think I've been thinking for now 5-6 years. Programmatic is definitively going to be the norms, as simple as it is. The only traditional media, we do not have the answer already, is the press, and how it's going to be delivered in the future. We don't know if it's still paper. You have some platform in order to buy some press inventories onto, but definitively something that we could call programmatic, what is not. But for the rest, I mean, everything I think it's Gurman or Silvia or Geisla mentioning audio, it's done. TV, it's done. Theaters, not yet, but it's only delivering video, so I have no doubt that it's going to pop. Press is the last one, I think.
Okay, so I'll rephrase the question to what's the future of media trading? Bruno, omnichannel, clearly. That's it's a trend that's already it's already becoming reality, exactly to your point. Geisla?
I suppose I think right now it's definitely so much more will become in the biddable platforms. It's obviously becoming a bit of I think actually what we'll start to see is changes around things such as the blur between social and programmatic, potentially, because those two channels are actually becoming quite similar. So that'll be an interesting place to see over the next kind of 12 to 18 months. I think COVID actually has pushed a lot of adoption of technology and people feeling more confident of digital in general. So I think it's really pushed what's for us and being able to sell and connect to consumers now digitally. That will help push us massively over the next especially in the next 6 to 12 months. And then obviously for Jellyfish, obviously we do a lot around in-housing, so a lot of education for clients on how they manage media buying is programmatically is a big thing.
Okay, so omni-channel and definitely education by the sound of things. Silvia, for you?
so to put it quite simply, you know, it's everything that can be automated, I think in future will be automated. Leaving more time for traders and publishers and their clients to strategize around the results that we actually want to drive. Better data integration across different stacks, hoping that we'll also see this. And for our business in particular, I do feel that, you know, more direct collaboration with the agencies, with our agencies and with our clients. I think somebody touched on this in the past as well, that we, it's really important that our practitioners have the ability to explain what it is that they're doing on their programmatic activity, and that we're working on hypothesis testing frameworks and things like that. So I think we'll see more co-location between our teams and agencies and clients going forward in order to facilitate that more succinctly.
Well, that's fascinating. So not only collaboration, but also sort of transparency into what's underpinning it.
Building joint teams almost, yeah.
Yes. And Gurman?
I'm left with nothing to add now. But I think, look, I think if you to ask me quite simply, I think in Europe and North America, I think omni-channel is going to fuel the next phase of growth. I think Asia is still quite programmatically just a bit nascent. And so I think there's a load of growth to happen in Asia around digital and then programmatic. But I think, as Geisla said, I think education is the key now, because a lot of people still don't get programmatic like we do, because we live and breathe it every day, right? But I think a lot of clients don't. So I think everyone's, one advice I'd have is take a step back and really the 101, what is programmatic training to marketers and things like that, is going to become even more important than it was 10 years ago, as now everyone's like, I need to actually do this. So I think education is probably like the one thing that everybody does is going to help everybody.
Well, that's a perfect segue to come into questions from the audience. So I'm going to see if I can bring them up here. If not, I always have to escape from my slides. Excuse me 1 second. Bear with me while we pull up the Q&A. So I've got a few here. I will start with this one, which is specifically for Gurman and Bruno. With increasing social video activity and larger budgets being reserved for influencer marketing, do you see opportunities to leverage influencer networks with tech prowess of the programmatic ecosystems for better customer solutions? And actually anyone can answer that, but it was specifically addressed for both of you.
You go, Bruno, if you like.
As you want.
Yeah, I think. Look, I think there's a barrier to use programmatic in social right now, which is a walled garden barrier. Really, it's in the fact that, you know, to take data out or push data or push the commands into programmatic platforms, it's just not really at any scale allowable at the minute because of the choices of the platform. So I think right now, if you could. And the people who are going to make that happen are the Facebooks, the Twitters, example like that. But right now, I think the way you buy social and the way you buy programmatic display is very, very similar. There's an element of cross matching you just simply can't do now. Those walls need to be broken down a little bit. You know, Facebook used to have, you know, back in the day, a thing called Facebook Exchange, and you could buy from DSPs and things like that. But I think that would need to come back for you to really deliver better customer solution, as the question said.
So down with the wall gardens. Is that what you're saying?
Just put a hole in the bricks, you know.
Little RTB shaped hole.
Yeah.
Bruno, would you like to add anything to this?
Yeah, sure. And yes, definitely it is the work of the platforms to do that job. And Facebook started, in fact, just because they sent they started an activity called Brand's Collabs Manager. So if I'm right, so you have the opportunity as an influencer to come on the platform, register, and then you will get campaigns as you are an influencer and you are rated by Facebook teams. So yeah, it's starting to be a kind of new a network model based on publisher inventory with your own content. So yes, it's happening. It's happening. It's going to happen. Yeah, for sure.
So, so I love this next question, which is really around innovation. So, the person asking the question loved the points that we made around connected TV and digital audio being formats that are really driving innovation, and where there's going to be this huge growth in ad spend. Gurman, I think you mentioned that specifically. The question from for us is, how do you push clients to test these mediums now and be ahead of the trends rather than playing catch up? It's a great question. So have a volunteer to go first.
Yeah, personally, I think it's an insight-led approach. You know, I think because we have the data available to us within Programmatic, you now have the ability to say, look, you know, the audience that, you know, bought 2 pizzas from you last week, watch these 3 TV channels, you know, consistently, and you're not advertising there. So let's just do a buy on those. And if you walk into the room with that insight-led story, and then you can tell how the mechanics work of it all. I think that's the best way of educating clients, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that, and to prove that it delivers results. Mm-hmm. So, you know, to throw it into the mix, into the channel mix, to run it as an hypothesis test, and then to prove why it delivers superior results, or why it extends reach, and all of those things.
Yeah. I have another great question here. So while we're speaking of innovative audiences, do psychometrics-based audiences have accretive value towards customer outcomes? So are we really seeing incremental growth or incremental positive uplift on customer outcomes if we're using psychometric-based audiences? Does anyone of our panelists have insights on that? I'm assuming that psychometrics is often mood or emotion-based targeting. I think that's a great question.
Yeah, there was sort of a specialist company that Nielsen bought called Visual DNA, whose whole model was to build data segments off psychoanalyzing users, and they did that, I think, through visual surveys and things like that. And I actually think what I've seen lately is those types of techniques being used in brand measurement surveys. And then you start building segments off the results of the brand measurement surveys to start targeting more effectively. That's where I have seen it sort of being leveraged in our industry.
I've seen it in audio, because obviously it's, you know, psychometric data is sometimes incredibly, you know, it's highly modeled. It's not necessarily incredibly accurate. But within audio, you know, if you're listening to a particular track on your Spotify playlist, then that is a pretty strong indication of what mood you may currently be in. So I have seen it being applied as a metric in those types of channels.
Really fascinating. I'm going to switch a couple of the questions around in terms of the order, just because I think it will make more sense this way around. But I'm really, someone has asked, can we define programmatic TV? Is YouTube programmatic TV? And if so, in what sense? I think there are so many different words in this. And actually the IAB in the UK are undertaking a big project on all different forms of TV and video at the moment. And I know there's a lot of good research that has been done there. So if whoever asked that question anonymously wants to follow up with me, I can happily share that research with them. So then the next question is really around, I think, outcome-based marketing, outcome-based optimization. What are the major metrics you use to understand how the brand campaigns are doing? is it any sort of specific brand lift mechanisms, or is it survey-based measurements? What helps?
All of those things, and ideally a combination of them together with some quality metrics. So, you know, within brand optimization, we will often try to combine a lot of the quality metrics the brands care about with, you know, things that indicate whether there's enough engagement with the creative, whether videos are completed, and where we do have the ability to measure things like, you know, in-store footfall or weave in any other kind of offline metrics, we will also do that.
Does anyone else want to add to that one, Gurman?
Quickly, yeah, we use some. You have some specific brand lift survey metrics that you can use. So far, we are just experimenting because it's very hard to really define where the impact is and what it is. So work in progress, I would say, for us.
Good to know. So I've just realised the time. We have just 5 minutes or so left, and still a number of questions to get through. I'm nervous because the next one is a legal one, and so we need to focus on shorter answers. But with the publication of the Competition and Markets Authority's report today, how will impending regulation of programmatic advertising in terms of fee and supply chain transparency impact the industry? I think there may be a ton of different variations on this.
Yeah, I think, look, I think really, if you bucket, where does the spend go, right? It goes in media to the publisher where the ad was sold. It goes in tech, which was a platform to facilitate that trade. It will go in data, whatever data you use to inform that buy, and it will go in services, i.e. the company who's doing it for you, how much are they charging? I think it's very common now for companies to ask, well, how much money went in each bucket? And the education is, well, where did the value come from, right? So, you know, there's a lot of value in brand safety, right? Which would you put in the data bucket. So they're like, okay, I get why I have to pay for that because it allows me to access a wide pool of media sources. You know, similarly in data. So, you know, if I go into TV, if it's like, hey, you need to spend 50% of your budget on data to let you know what users watched on TV, and then we'll find those users on whatever media that we can in a brand safe way, then they'll be like, okay, well, 50% of my spend's gone on data. So personally, I think our industry is going that way, and I think any regulation that comes in is probably just going to get more clients asking questions that nearly all clients are going to ask anyway. So, but I think the real education piece is trying to help marketers understand what really drove the value. How do you link those 4 buckets to the outcome that they wanted?
Yes, I'm going to have to interrupt to go to the next question, which is, I think it might be one of my favourite questions of all time, because I think we can actually really help someone here. But how can we, as a small connected TV publisher, become part of buys made by traders who aren't specifically looking for my apps? So how does a publisher get on the radar of the traders within your businesses?
Good old-fashioned selling.
Yeah.
Geisla, please.
Yeah, I was just going to say, is contacting media buyers within these organisations and just educating. For us, the first step is educate the media buyer, and then the media buyer works really closely with our planners. And then when we're, hopefully it's there. And then when we're planning campaigns, that would then, if it's relevant, it will be planned into a campaign.
Yeah. And I'd also say just ask the buyers what they're looking for, what they're trying to buy on behalf of their clients. I think that's super powerful. Like our traders, you know, always love publishers reaching out to them and trying to figure out what they're actually trying to achieve, where we're struggling with performance, so that they build a really good picture on how they can help us.
I'm often asked about the role of the SSPs for the publisher here. Is that something as buyers, you know, Bruno, would you expect the SSP to work for that connected TV app publisher and promote them?
I'm not sure to get a question. Could you rephrase it?
Oh, so
please?
it was how, as a small connected TV publisher, how do I become part of the buys by traders who might not be looking for my inventory?
You mean the initial question? Yeah.
Yes.
It's super simple. You just have to understand the goals of the advertiser. In fact, it's just a chain. As soon as you are in the chain and you do something for the chain, you can be in. As simple as it.
Get closer to the buy side is the answer from everyone.
Yeah, for sure. And just understand what the advertiser want to do with campaigns that the trader is managing. As simple as it is as Gurman said, it's good old way of selling inventory. As simple as it is. It's not programmatic for this one.
Yeah, but I would give the same advice as well to the SSPs. It's like really try to understand what we're trying to achieve. Try to, you know, we've got examples at Group M where we're working, for example, in the US with index exchange, and we're building a, you know, pre-optimized networks, ensuring that, you know, the supply that we're that's made available to us, you know, really conforms to the things that we're actually looking for from a performance perspective. So all of those things are really powerful. So yes, there is, yeah, everything is automated, but we still need to talk to each other essentially.
Brilliant. Well, I love that we've been able to finish on a positive note. Hopefully helping that connected TV publisher. And by the sounds of things, there's demand. So hopefully, if they're reaching out, that should really help. I'm afraid we're out of time now, and so I'd really just love to thank all of the panelists today for sharing your vision. I think we really have a much stronger view now on the future of media trading and what it has in store for all of us. I'm going to hand back to Paul, who's going to, I think, just tell us very briefly about the next session in our series of webinars.
Yeah, so we do a series called 15 Minutes with Beeswax. So if you'd like to see any of those, we do post them on our website, which I will circulate now to everybody, beeswax.com/events. But we generally dive into a topic that's either relevant to Adtech or to media trading, some of the topics we talked about today, or there's about a feature of the Beeswax platform. So they're really quick, 15-minute little things. I know we all have a lot of Zoom fatigue. So it's good to keep them short. So I'll just circulate that now, beeswax.com/events. And you folks can check that out, sign up for something. Obviously, it's all free. It's all over Zoom. So no reason not to.
Thanks again, everyone, for joining us.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for
Thank you.
Bye.